Shiru was an ugly loser who lost his job and willed to live after a girl falsely accused him of being a pervert. But when he gets a chance to go to another world, he gives up his looks and ability to touch girls in exchange for godlike power that makes him unstoppable. Shigeru Yoshioka was the kind of guy who made women cross the street just from his scent, an ugly bastard whose face looked like expired mochi left under a futon. Even he knew it. He embraced it, lived in it, breathed it. His life, built on the raw tenacity of being hideous and proud. A proud salaryman grinding his teeth in a soul-sucking sales job, not for glory or babes, but for the tiniest spark of human gratitude. If someone smiled, even once, he thought maybe he hadn't been born completely cursed. But all that crumbled in one humiliating, system-destroying moment, when a pretty girl pulled the oldest scam in the handbook, a false molestation charge. The erosion in his arms didn't help his case. Neither did his face, which screamed, "I've definitely groped someone." The verdict? A soul-shattering 300,000 yen fine and a criminal record that tattooed pervert onto his DNA. And just like that, Shigeru, the crusty-faced, coffee-breathed, dignity-starved sales rep, had lost the only thing holding his rotten life together, his pride. Turns out, the cute little liar was a serial false accuser. She got a wrist slap in protective custody because she was underage. But Shigeru? He got a lifetime sentence of public scorn and internal decay. His ugly bastard face, once a symbol of gritty survival, became a cursed mirror he couldn't even look at without dry heaving. Socially exiled, emotionally obliterated, his dignity stripped, his job gone, his savings depleted. 6 years later, he was living as a degenerate shut-in, at NET so filthy he could fertilize crops just by breathing on them. One night at 2 a.m., the hour reserved for losers and ghosts, he opened his window, pointed his moldy PC to the north, and raised both hands like some greasy, desperation-soaked druid trying to summon a new life. He wasn't asking to be ice-guyed. He just wanted a reset, a do-over, a chance to spit in the face of the gods who made him this revolting. That's when the screen changed. A re-roll screen. A real one. He dumped every point into stats, drastically dropped his looks into the negatives like a debt collector swinging a bat. Special note, touch a girl and lose 10% HP. Have sex and both of you die in miscarriage. A 1 in 10,000 curse that made his glizzy fatal. Why? Because that's how you get 100 trillion bonus points. And this pervy demon was ready to invest every last cursed yen of it. He woke up, confused, in his undies. Everything was warped. The stat screen blinked. Looks, minus 255. His new life had begun, and it smelled like sweat, failure, and despair. And worse, he wasn't alone. It wasn't just Shigeru in this low-res reject realm. He was now trapped with a band of other degenerate souls, socially broken trash bags just like him. Except each one had a cursed gimmick worse than the last. And as they argued over loot like hungry sewer rats, it was already clear the power fantasy wasn't going to come easy. 7 gold coins, but only 4 mouths? Shigeru hadn't picked up a single one, too busy imagining a girl's naked body like a proper horn dog. Their judgment? Disqualified from looting privileges. His rebuttal? Nothing. He was still fantasizing about boobs. Weapon selection? Decided by a game of rock, paper, scissors. Of course, Shigeru lost, because destiny wanted to see him suffer. He got the leftover stick, a limp, embarrassing staff. Poetic. Then came the handshake. "Let's shake in solidarity," said one of the other rejects. Shigeru backed away like they offered him an STD on a plate. Pass. I don't want to die just by touching someone. That's how real his curse was. His deadly virgin touch. Despite his hideous mug, Shigeru had god-tier stats. Thanks to the hellishly specific sex curse, he now had power levels that made most RPG heroes look like mall cops. So they began their journey to the town of Iria. "Let's depart," shouted the party. "Can't be helped," muttered Shigeru. "Or maybe we should ditch them halfway." Truly the spirit of team building. One by one, the social outcasts tried their hand at glory, but none could match the ugly bastard's raw, accidental talent. Dexterity, strength, HP, all stats rose like a teenage boy's pants at a swimsuit episode. And Saika? She kept struggling with her bow like it was a puzzle box from hell. "I'll string it for you," offered Shigeru, remembering all the late-night tutorial vids he binged in his basement lair. "Go ahead," she said, "but don't touch me." Just hearing that sentence made his balls retreat like scared turtles. Shigeru's rampage began. 16 kills, 13 kills, more level ups. Even Saika finally got the bow right, after Shigeru lent his greasy mitts to help her. Her aim still sucked, but the passion was real. And her reward? A cold rejection. "Don't touch me." Fine. This was what passed for flirting when the main character was a living PSA against public nudity. Enemy waves came. Shigeru and Saika handled them like dysfunctional pros. She rained down arrows. He crushed goblins with the fury of 6 years of social isolation. And for a moment, a brief, greasy, pervy moment, they connected. like two burned-out batteries trying to spark a dead light bulb. He even smiled, genuinely. But then Saika said the thing that shattered the illusion. "You've used it all up, haven't you?" A line so vague yet so cruel, it could only be aimed at a man with erectile dysfunction-level confidence. The party finally reached the town of Iria. The smell of fries and burgers hung in the air, like greasy hope in sandwich form. The group split up. They weren't bad people, just too much of a reminder that life still hated him. Shigeru sat alone, until Saika sat beside him. "You're alone too?" Her voice, soft, curious. "You're not female, are you?" he asked, dead serious. That's how hard life had gaslit him. He needed confirmation. Then she handed him a hamburger. "Not as a gift. As thanks. For stringing my bow earlier," she said. His hands trembled. His heart pounded. His face, still revolting, twitched with something rare. Gratitude. The teriyaki burger was huge, loaded, smelled like heaven. He took a bite. 58 damage. From the sauce alone. Saika laughed lightly. Even with rough math, that's 1/305th of Earth's population gone. Her insult game was S tier, but she wasn't being cruel. She was teasing. Like someone interested? Nah, couldn't be. He was still an ugly bastard with deadly glizzy stats. But then she said something no woman had said to him before. "I noticed. You even found arrows and secretly gave them to me." She'd seen him. Not as a joke. Not as a creep. As a person. He nearly cried. But instead, he played it off like a true coward. "Thanks," he muttered. Then she took his hand and guided him forward. And just like that, Shigeru's cursed second life had begun. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a winner. He was still a shut-in, antisocial, deadly-fingered, ugly bastard. But this time, someone had smiled because of him. And in a world that punished weakness and mocked virginity, that was already more than he'd ever had. This was no Ice Guy redemption story. This was revenge porn for social disasters. And Shigeru Yoshioka? He was finally playing the game, one hamburger of hope at a time. He was a penniless reincarnator with the luck of a roadkill raccoon and the face of a forgotten grease trap. But even losers get lucky sometimes. They struck gold. Well, copper, realistically, and celebrated like two deranged raccoons who found a vending machine filled with expired candy. Their inventory overflowed with junk they couldn't afford to sell. And of course, the group clown Shigeru couldn't buy a damn thing because he was financially allergic to common sense. They found a cozy inn, the kind of place where your wallet checks in but never checks out. The girls were over the moon about it, but Saika? This idiotic hero complex had him choosing to sleep in a damn park like a tragic protagonist from a 2003 melodrama. Romantic? Try broke and delusional. His pride was worth more to him than a warm bed. Fool. Even after the rich girl offered to cover his stay, pure charity, he turned it down like the stubborn donkey he was. She was practically dragging him by the collar, giggling like she didn't realize she was dealing with a total degenerate in disguise. And as if that wasn't pathetic enough, Saika's battle training? Still about as consistent as a discount dollar store sword. No damage if it hits through cloth. Useless. The next morning, our beloved slime-suited mooch was eating chocolate cookies like a giddy little goblin on sugar crack. But where did they come from? He claimed someone gave them to him. Yeah, right. Probably emotionally manipulated some passerby with his baby seal eyes and sob story. He even reenacted some tragic last train scene. What was this, a dating sim? Was he trying to weaponize cuteness now? The sheer cringe radiating from his every word nearly cracked the fourth wall. But despite his greasy delivery, it worked. The rich girl got hooked. Her face melted with that sweet mix of pity and attraction, the kind of expression only a filthy loser like Saika could mistake for romance. Even worse, he used her reaction to explain barter tactics. This slimy bastard was a walking scam seminar. He spammed his arrow skill like a gotcha addict with mommy's credit card, selling them off at inflated rates like a back-alley merchant on a shady MMORPG server. Somehow it worked. Somehow, this idiotic scheme landed. And just like that, another debt was repaid, whatever that meant to a man whose moral compass was spinning like a gyroscope in a hurricane. With bellies full and wallets slightly less anemic, they began plotting their next suicide mission. They needed income. And like any true Ice Guy trash pile, the solution was obvious: dungeon crawling. Because nothing screams financial stability like goblins and tetanus. A cave, specifically Argus Cave, became their destination. Dangerous? Absolutely. But these lunatics were too busy huffing their own self-confidence to care. Then he showed up. Kyushiru. Slick-haired, sweet-talking, NPC-looking sleaze with the aura of a used car salesman who moonlighted as a grave robber. He introduced himself like he'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Because he had. He offered guidance, training, protection, all for a modest fee. Yeah, right. The dude might as well have had a neon sign flashing "newbie trap" on his forehead. Saika smelled the scam right away, but did that stop them? Hell no. They hired him anyway. For 120 lira a day plus bonuses. The moment that deal was signed, every death flag in the universe waved in slow motion. Saika missed every shot like his arrows were programmed to avoid success. His aim was so bad, even the goblins pitied him. Kyushiru, still playing teacher, tried to motivate him by saying each arrow cost 1,000,000,000 yen. That somehow worked, because Saika, dumb as ever, actually took that imaginary number to heart. He hit the next goblin dead on like it owed him child support. Suddenly, he was a goddamn sniper. What changed? Nothing, except his level of delusion. Meanwhile, Seiji got dagger lessons. He sliced the air with the grace of a drunken ballerina. Kyushiru's advice? Cut like you're unsheathing tea utensils. What kind of samurai psycho babble was that? And then came the helmet. Oh, the helmet. Saika, being the impulsive grease monkey he was, dropped 60 lira on a piece of trash Kyushiru claimed was forged by a holy one. In reality, it looked like a rejected cosplay prop. Rest in peace, 60 lira. You deserve better. Kyushiru casually flexed his level 61 staff-wielding status, like that wasn't a red flag on its own. And just to flex harder, he dropped the nuke story. Apparently, he once cast a maxed-out spell that nearly vaporized a 200 kilometers radius. If that happened in Saitama, Japan would have split in half. Saika nearly pissed himself. Understandably, the guy was standing next to a human WMD wrapped in smooth talker charm. Then came the existential crisis. Kyushiru used to be a mercenary, got outclassed, and rage quit after his buddy became a king. Boo-hoo. Saika's level? A mighty, majestic 3. They finally reached the boss room, but Saika was too scared to move, frozen like a virgin at his first strip club. The others tried to hold his hand like he was 5. Embarrassing. And just when it couldn't get worse, math talk. They argued over the value of pi like a bunch of stressed-out cram school rejects. In a dungeon. Inside the dungeon's secret chamber, a so-called safe zone, according to Kyushiru, they threw a party. It smelled like betrayal and unwashed armpits. The drinks were drugged, obviously. It was too generous to be true. But somehow, none of them dropped. Rich girl even called it out. Charcoal drug. Immune, apparently. Maybe the filth in Saika's bloodstream acted as a natural antidote. But the vibe shifted. Kyushiru turned solemn. The mood dropped like Saika's social credit score. And then, plot dump. Seiji spilled his backstory like emotional diarrhea. He was a runaway, founded a company, got sweet-talked by a salesman, grew the business, then crashed and burned harder than a dollar store rocket. Depression, guilt, bankrupt dreams. And who was the mysterious salesman that saved his life? Shigeru. Yes, that's Shigeru. The bumbling, awkward, cookie-hustling mess of a man. They cried. They hugged. They trauma-bonded like emotionally constipated middle-aged dads on a fishing trip. More secrets. More trauma. Kyushiru revealed his past life working customer service, defusing screaming clients and absorbing rage like a human stress ball. Apparently, he developed a messiah complex from it. The party began to feel like a support group for broken reincarnators. Everyone dumped their pain on the floor and shared awkward smiles while Saika sat in silence, brooding like the budget Kirito he thought he was. He wasn't thinking about girls or loot. He was thinking about the very essence of his useless, directionless life. A reset, he said. A second chance. Cue the cheesy clink of mugs. Cheers. Hugs. Tears. They laughed like they weren't standing in a glorified rat hole. And for one brief moment, they felt human again. But peace never lasts. Not when you're followed by your own festering luck. As they left the cave, they heard it. The death whistle. Metal clashing in the forest like a dinner bell for disaster. Kyushiru moved first, dead calm, but ready to break skulls. A figure emerged, tattered robes, glowing crimson eyes, pure psycho energy oozing from his pores. Not a monster. A man. A broken reincarnator. The guy was a walking middle finger to hope. With a staff in one hand and madness in the other, he cast a spell without warning. A spiral of light tore through the earth like the wrath of a vengeful ex. Kyushiru blocked it with a barrier. Just barely. Run, he screamed. They hesitated. He roared louder. The psycho called him traitor. Said he left us. Classic villain monologue. And then he raised his staff again. Trees rotted, ground blackened, and death itself peered through the cracks. They ran. Kyushiru stayed behind, blood pouring, soul burning. The rest could only watch as hell erupted behind them. When the smoke cleared, he stood. Barely. The attacker was gone. But the message was clear. They weren't safe anymore. They stared into the empty space where the monster had stood and realized something chilling. He wasn't the only one. There were more. Twisted souls like them. Broken. Dangerous. And they were coming. So they made a vow. They would train. Fight. Grow stronger. No more half-assed teamwork. No more emotional hang-ups. No more sleeping in damn parks like edgy loners. They'd survive. Together. Because in this world, you didn't get peace. You got pain. Purpose. And maybe, just maybe, a shot at redemption. Even for ugly, greasy, hopeless losers like Saika. It all began with a scream. Not the usual pervy shriek of a nosebleed bleeding anime virgin. This was the explosive, echoing roar of a wannabe superhero about to lose his lunch and his morals. Some nerd who called himself Ultimane awakened his other self and vomited out a third eye. or some garbage like that. Probably watched too much late-night Shuni TV. Then, BM, he dropkicks a magic wolf with his perfect Yusha move. A whole attack based on justice and body odor. As if things weren't chaotic enough, the dude starts talking down to his enemies like a rejected courtroom cosplayer, preaching redemption through pain. His target? A group of pathetic thugs who probably got their powers from licking game cartridges. But even after his judgment of law speech, the goons weren't buying it. Until one tripped like a clown on banana peels, face-planting his pride straight into the mud. Ultimate humiliation speedrun. And then, a booger happened. Yeah, one of the goons gets splattered by a holy nose missile, apparently fired from Ardini, the world's most melodramatic nose picker. Everyone freaks out as if God just sneezed divine justice into existence. But even more shockingly, some random white hawk swoops in like it's been possessed by a fallen angel cosplayer. That bird saves a guy from getting tree-bonked, and the crowd loses their collective marbles. You performed a miracle, they scream, worshipping the snot-hurling Messiah like he was Jesus with sinus issues. The fake villains finally drop the act, realizing they're outmatched by divine nostril artillery. They fall to their knees, groveling like horny peasants begging their dominatrix not to leave. One of them offers to return what they stole, like, "Here, take this back, sorry we acted like rats." But our booger hero isn't done yet. Ardini wants to give them the hot-blooded slap of justice. Yeah, not a beatdown, a slap. Because apparently these pervy delinquents don't understand pain unless it's administered via open palm and melodrama. The whip of love comes out, not literal whips, unfortunately for the Eki crowd, but metaphorical ones, wrapped in speeches and hand-holding. The kind of stuff that'd make any edgy villain throw up in their cape. But plot twist, Seiji, the goody two-shoes with a justice fetish, stops the punishment midway. If it comes from anger, it's not love, he says, sounding like an anime therapist on a budget. Instead, they all agree to a symbolic slap session, one by one lining up to receive their emotional therapy palm. Engraving the whip of love into one's heart is how he puts it. More like engraving secondhand embarrassment into the viewer's souls. Meanwhile, our pig-faced protagonist Shigeru is somehow becoming the center of attention. Despite contributing a grand total of 0 to the fight, he's praised for being the bravest of all. The guy stood around like an emotionally constipated statue, yet now he's the MVP. Girls giggle, boys nod, and he's getting a cut of the reward money, 100,000 lira. That's 10 million yen. For napping through a battle. Life's not fair, and apparently neither is this world's reward system. Shigeru tries to be modest, saying his contribution rate is 1/10,000th, which is probably generous. But then he hits everyone with some slick salaryman lip service. "I blow all my money immediately, so give it to Seiji." Translation: "I'm a broke loser, please don't make me manage cash." Seiji agrees to manage the funds responsibly, which somehow results in half the group throwing their money at Saika, the impulsive shopper with the self-control of a raccoon in a vending machine. After all the dramatic justice LARPing, it's burger time. Saika spoils Shigeru with a surprise hamburger, grinning like a girl on her first date while forcing him to say thank you in the most Sundara voice imaginable. Their weird little power dynamic has gone full kindergarten. He gets fed, and she demands gratitude. It's like a broke, greasy version of a bento date. Then the convo shifts to something even more cursed: stats. Turns out Shigeru nerfed his own looks stat to min-max his other skills. He willingly made himself uglier to boost his power, like a masochist who trades in Riz for resistance. Saika's confused because despite his hideousness, he's still somehow managing to charm the group. She even admits to scribbling, "I want to be beautiful," into the notes section of her stat screen, like a desperate Google form entry to the Ice Sky gods. And apparently, it worked. Things take a bizarre turn when Saika spots a cat and transforms into a squealing schoolgirl. But Shigeru's reaction is different. He sees her running, tripping, obsessing over her hand, and suddenly, his rotten brain starts putting 2 and 2 together. She didn't wish to be pretty just for vanity. No, her legs were messed up. Her body was broken. This girl who now skips around with a jump rope used to be unable to walk. And just like that, something snaps in Shigeru's worthless soul. He decides he must be the god now, the one who watches over her, protects her, teaches her. Not because he's a noble man, but because he's the only guy dumb enough and desperate enough to care. The party decides to choose jobs. It's like career day, but everyone's dressed in RPG drip and high on dreams. Saika shouts, "I'll be a hero," like she's auditioning for a magical girl spinoff. Meanwhile, Shigeru gets labeled a hardcore fighter, which sounds like a euphemism for someone who fights demons and the urge to touch grass. Everyone picks a role, but Saika flips sides immediately. She ditches hero work for mage training after Seiji offers her some flashy spells. Typical anime girl energy. 0 loyalty, 100% enthusiasm. It's off to the capital next, Valeria Principality, the city of mages and overpriced snacks. But before they head out, Seiji drops an earth-shattering rule: no snacks over 3 sand lira. It's a field trip now. Saika weeps at the restriction like someone just told her she couldn't impulse buy another legendary staff. To lift the mood, Shigeru joins her in a jump rope session, because apparently, this fantasy world lacks swords and has gym class instead. Saika bounces around, swinging that rope like a happy toddler, while Shigeru plays teacher to a girl who's emotionally 5 years old but spiritually unbreakable. They headed to the weapon shop, and like a degenerate version of a fantasy Walmart, everything from hardcore fighter clubs to cold wind user gear was on sale. But out of all things, Saika, bless her sugar-crazed heart, picked a damn jump rope. The shopkeeper, either a troll or a true believer, hyped it up as the pinnacle of cold wind weapons, and Saika ate it up like candy. Back at training, Saika flailed around with the rope, spinning like a possessed seal. Shigeru watched, probably regretting all his life choices again. But then, plot twist. Saika glanced at her. The nameless girl. The one who hadn't said a single word since appearing. Saika wanted to teach her too. This wasn't just about exercise. This was Saika desperately trying to get close, to reach someone who hadn't even shared her name. So she did the most logical thing in anime. She gave the girl a nickname. Reese, she said. No fancy explanation, just pure Saika-style chaos logic. Shigeru watched closely. The girl didn't flinch, didn't attack. She just accepted it. That tiny moment said everything. Saika, now bouncing with social energy like a cracked-out bunny, asked Reese if she wanted to go shopping. Let's get matching outfits, she said, her eyes full of dumb hope. But Reese didn't scream, or cry, or walk away. She just muttered, I don't have money. No hesitation. Just honesty. Saika's reply? Pure anime delusion. It's fine, Seiji-san is rich. Shigeru probably choked on air hearing that. But the impossible happened. Reese didn't turn her back. Instead, she said it. She said Saika's name. And just like that, Saika's brain imploded in happiness. Her first friend. Her actual, confirmed, real-life friend. Meanwhile, Shigeru stared from the shadows, knowing something was off. Reese wasn't just shy. Her strength, her reaction speed, her zero-damage record in battle, it all screamed red flag. He didn't say it out loud, but one thing was crystal clear. This girl was no ordinary Reese.